What's up everyone, my name is Wakar and welcome back to my channel. Today is somewhere in mid-October when this video is going to be going live, and so in the spirit of Halloween I really wanted to share a kind of spooky deck with you guys, and so today I wanted to bring you guys a deck profile of MaloMyotismon. Now MaloMyotismon is a deck that I had played since whenever it was released, I think BT3. Wasn't very good. It did get a lot more support in BT8. However, the deck still is pretty lacking, but I think I've got it to a place where it's pretty playable and it's incredibly fun, and when it pops off, it can be really good. However, I will preface this by saying against faster OTK decks in this meta, which is in BT9 and even going into BT10, this deck does tend to struggle a bit, just because it does need a lot of setup. And so sometimes you'll find that you need just one more turn to pop off and win, or really gain advantage over your opponent, which is a bit unfortunate, but if you're able to set up fast enough, it can definitely get wins against some top tier decks. Without further ado, let's just get into the deck profile. And so as always, we're going to be starting off with the eggs. So we are playing a total of 5 eggs. First egg are for a Demi-Meramon. Demi-Meramon's pretty standard. On deletion, draw 1, trash 1. You are going to be deleting your Myotismons, and you do want to fill up your trash with Digimon with Myotismon in its name. So Demi-Meramon is pretty important here. In fact, I'd say any of the purple eggs aren't incorrect. Anything that trashes. The other one that I'm running is the Pagumon that when attacking, trash the top card of your deck. But the reason I don't prefer this one is I kind of want more control over what I'm trashing, and so I chose to go with the 4 Demi, 1 Pagumon split. In all honesty, you could probably just run 4 of these and not run a 5th egg, but that is totally up to you. All right, moving on to the rookies. Although we didn't get direct support for Myotismon in the more recent sets, there have been cards which do really help the deck overall, and let's talk about that. And that is the Dracmon line. And so we're running 4 Dracmon. So Dracmon, if you don't know, it is an undead type, and that is important, and we'll talk about why. On play, you reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. You trash 1 card with undead or dark animal and its traits among them, and add 1 card with dark animal or undead and its traits among them to your hand, and then you place the rest at the bottom of your deck. That itself is really strong. So if you don't know this already, like I said, he's an undead. Myotismon is also an undead. So this can potentially dump or search your Myotismons from your deck into your trash or hand. Now, you can choose to resolve, if you can't resolve the full effect, say you only reveal 1 Myotismon, you can choose whether they're added to your hand or your deck. Of course, if you see multiples, then you have to fully resolve this card's effect. But if you only see 1, you can choose to add it to your hand instead of trashing it. So definitely keep that in mind. It does also have a very good inheritable. Its inheritable is when attacking, this Digimon may digivolve into a Digimon with undead or dark animal and its traits from your trash for its digivolution cost. This means that if this is underneath one of your level 4s, when your level 4 swings, it can digivolve into a Myotismon that's already in your trash for its digivolution cost. And that's incredibly powerful because it lets you recur your Myotismons, especially one that we'll talk about when we get to it. But recurring your Myotismons is really important because it helps you prolong the game, assuming you can get that far. But yeah, Dracmon is really good for the deck, and we'll talk a bit more about some of the cards we're running on our higher end, which Dracmon really supports. Next, I am running 4 Devimon. What this card does is on play, you reveal top 3. You add 1 Tamer among them to your hand. It doesn't specify color. That's also important. And then you trash 1 purple Digimon card among them. And then you place the rest at the bottom. So Devimon is also pretty good because it helps you search out your Yukios. And I think that's pretty valuable. Although if you are not a fan of this card, you can definitely cut it for more of these floodgates. So I'm running 2 Psychmon and 2 Gazi, 2-2 split. You could potentially run more of these, especially going into BT10, just so your opponent can, cross into, especially if they're playing Shoutmon, they can't do like multiple crosses in the same turn by reducing the play cost. And so these are kind of just filler spots. You can adjust these ratios as you like, and you can even cut some of the Devimons if you wish to do so. So that is a total of 12 level 3s. Starting off, we're running 3 Soulmon. So Soulmon is, there are 2 good things that I like about Soulmon. One is the fact that it costs only 4 to hard play. And so if you are bricked, you are able to just hard slam this a lot of times, and next turn digivolve this into a Myotismon. Its other effect is your turn, when a card is trashed from your deck, you gain 1 memory. Although I did say that I don't like blindly trashing things and I like to have more control over what I'm trashing. So the Pokemon definitely helps with that. But the Myotismon, there is plenty of trashing in this deck still. And so Soulmon definitely helps because he helps to reduce your cost, your Digivolution cost of some of your Myotismons and MaloMyotismon. And so this card is definitely good. You can actually even run this at 4 if you really wanted to. I do run 3 blocker Devimon, mostly for the fact that it is a 1-cost evolution, but blocker can come up, and it, especially against decks that rush you down, you might need the blockers to kind of keep your opponent from applying too much pressure while you try to build up your trash. Next, I'm running 2 Sangbloopmon. This card has pretty much the same effect, same inheritable as a Dracmon, and so this is pretty good, although you can't Digivolve into your Myotismons with this because obviously you're going to be swinging with this guy and the inheritable is not going to be active. There's another Digimon that we will talk about later, which this can benefit from, which is the reason why we're running the Sangbloopmon. Next, I'm running 2 Garurumon. This is kind of a flex spot. It is 4 costed to hard play, similar to the Soulmon, but basically you on one attacking its inheritable is draw 1, trash 1. It kind of helps unbreak your hands if you are in a situation where you have too many MaloMyotismons or too many level 6s in your hand and you need to get them into trash in order to play your Yu-Gi-Oh's effects. So, and the final one that we have is a single copy of Lowamon. We are running a good number of purple tamers in this deck, 5 I think total. We'll get to that in a minute. So Lowamon is a good finisher, although honestly I don't see this as much when I need it. Usually I'm not ending the game with him anyways, but he is definitely good to have. If you don't like him, you can always cut him for something else. Honestly, the level 4 lineup is probably the most flexible in this deck. The level 5s are going to be pretty rigid in what you want to run, so you can pretty much swap out any of these guys. I do like the Soulmons. In fact, I could even, like I said, I would even consider bumping it up to 4. The Sangbloopmon does help, and we'll talk more about that when we get to the level 6s. But the Garurumon and the Lowamon are definitely pretty flexible. So that is a total of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 level 4s. All right, going on to the level 5s, we are starting off with 4 of these BT8 Myotismon. This is the best, one of the best cards in the deck, and definitely the best level 5 that you have access to. And so if you don't know what this does, when Digivolving, you trash the top 2 cards of your deck. Then if you have a Yu-Gi-Oh in your trash, you can play it without paying its cost. And so right away, that is really great because it helps recur your Yu-Gi-Ohs. Yu-Gi-Ohs are going to be used to bring out your MaloMyotismons when any of your Myotismons are destroyed. And so this is absolutely a crucial card in this deck. It even has a really good inheritable saying that on deletion, if this Digimon has Myotismon in its name, you can play 1 Yu-Gi-Oh suspended without paying its memory cost. And so that means your Yu-Gi-Oh is already live. So at the end of your opponent's turn, if you have MaloMyotismon in your trash, you get to bring it back by deleting the Yu-Gi-Oh. So this card adds a lot of recursion, and so going into this with your Dracmon, if it's already in your grave, is also really nice. And overall, it's a pretty good card. Next, we are just running 2 of these Myotismons. This is from BT2. The main reason for running this one is the name. It's a Myotismon. This one has 8,000 DP, which doesn't really matter. You usually do not want to be swinging with these guys, but this one has a 2 Digivolution cost, which is pretty good. And so it helps you turbo into your MaloMyotismons. And then finally, we're running 1 EX1 Myotismon. This guy's effect is when your turn, when you're Digivolving into a Digimon with Myotismon in its name in your hand, reduce the memory cost of the Digivolution by 1. So that comes up sometimes. It's inheritable, almost like it's pretty much never going to come up. We don't have any Digimon with retaliation in this deck, and so you can pretty much ignore its inheritable, but for the most part, it's pretty much just a name. You can probably replace this with another one of these Myotismons if you really wanted to. And to round out our level 5s, we're running 1 Skull Satamon from BT8. His effect is when Digivolving, trash 2 cards of your deck, then return 1 card with Demon Lord in its traits from your trash to your hand. So this comes up because if you need a MaloMyotismon in hand, for whatever reason, you're able to Digivolve into this and add the Malo back to your hand. And then his inheritable is the same thing as a Soulmon. When you trash from your deck, you gain a memory. So that's pretty decent. You don't really need more than 1 just because this pretty much only comes up late game if you really need it. But aside from that, it is pretty solid, I think, level 5 lineup. The only flex spot here are really this one and maybe this, but I don't want to cut down on too many Myotismons because you want to have at least 5 in trash as soon as possible. And so that is a total of 8 level 5s. Then moving on to the level 6s, obviously the main boss of this deck is BT8 MaloMyotismon. So this guy is a 4 cost to Digivolve. It's a common misconception that you only want to get this card into your trash and then bring him out for Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Will bring him out for free, which is great because he does have an on-play effect. However, Digivolving into him is not the worst thing. It's actually pretty good to help set up your trash in order for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Play, especially if you have this Myotismon already underneath him. It makes a really good play because if you have Yu-Gi-Ohs in trash already, or if you Digivolve into him and you mill a bunch and you mill your Yu-Gi-Oh, then when he gets deleted anyways, this MaloMyotismon can bring back, or this Myotismon inheritable can bring back your Yu-Gi-Oh. So absolutely great card. So on Digivolve, you just mill 5, which is good. And then if you have a Digimon with Myotismon in its name in your trash, you gain 1 memory. So a lot of the times, a good majority of the time, he's actually Digivolving for 3, which is pretty good. And then if you have Soulmon or Skullsatamon underneath him, you gain even more memory. And then if you have that 1 Myotismon that reduces cost, it's even less. So usually he's Digivolving for 3 or less. And then on play, his effect is if there are 5 or more cards with Myotismon in their names in your trash, you can delete one of your opponent's unsuspended Digimon and trash 1 card from the top of your opponent's security. So that's pretty powerful, just because it trashes security and doesn't really trigger them, right? So it's better than attacking into security, which is incredibly powerful. He uses 12,000 DP, which is decent, but it could be better. But yeah, overall, pretty solid card, and cheating him out for free with Yu-Gi-Oh! Is absolutely amazing. And then finally, rounding out the level 6s. I'm not running any of the older MaloMyotismons. I found that a lot of times they just kind of break in hand. I never really want to Digivolve into them. That one does have a higher Digivolution cost as well. I believe that one's 5. And he doesn't really have any good Digivolution effects. He does have an effect. He does have Piercing, and he has another effect where when Digimon are deleted, you gain a memory. But I find that it doesn't really come up too much. However, Venom Myotismon does come up a lot more, especially in the current meta. So Venom Myotismon's effect is he's 4 to Digivolve as well. But the one thing to know, he is a dark animal. And so if you go back and remember, we are running all the Drachmons, the Drachmon and the Singloopmons, they both allow, their inheritables allow you to Digivolve into a dark animal from your trash. And so when you are swinging with your level 5s, you're able to swing and then Digivolve into this guy for 4. He does have security attack +1, which is great. The other effect that he has is on your opponent's turn, when one of your opponent's Digimon becomes suspended, you gain a memory. That's also really good because that's not once per turn. And so when your opponent starts swinging, say they're playing Cross Hearts, right? If they're playing Cross Heart and they have a bunch of cross 4s that they go for, every single time they swing, you're going to be gaining a memory, assuming that he lives every single time, right? Or if you're playing against, say, Metal Garurumon and they're not able to clear him or bounce him with their Metal Garurumon X antibody, then obviously when they're swinging with the Rare Garurumons, they're going to be losing a lot of memory there as well. Against Armor Rush or anything that swings multiple times and rushes, this card is absolutely amazing. And cheating him out from your trash is also pretty nice, and that's why we run those other cards that we talked about. So that is those are 6 Digimon, 6 level 6 Digimon that we're running. And then finally, to round out the Digimon, we're running 1 copy of Omnimon Zwart. This is kind of a flex spot as well. I just wanted something to go over my MaloMyotismons that aren't really doing anything. I kind of find that I don't need him too often. The only time I really use him is super late game when I just need to play a bunch of blockers. So I'll Digivolve into him and play out the Devimon blockers. But you can really switch him out depending on the meta. You can probably go into like a Zwart defeat, or even like just have a Death X in here if you have the budget to do that. Overall, this is a pretty cheap deck, so if you have a Death X, sure, but otherwise this isn't mandatory. This could just be literally anything else. All right, now going on to the Tamers. So we're running 4 copies of Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh's effect is all turns when your Digimon with Myotismon in its name is deleted, you can suspend him to gain 1 memory. So that's pretty good. And then end of your opponent's turn, if this card is suspended, you can delete this Tamer to play 1 MaloMyotismon from your trash without playing memory cost. And so this brings out your MaloMyotismons, their BT8 MaloMyotismons, which had the on-play effect, which is pretty good. And so this helps you kind of recur your MaloMyotismons, and then your Myotismons can bring him back. So we're running 4 because we want to see this card as early as possible. Even if you have multiple stacked, and you don't have as many MaloMyotismons in trash, it's fine because you still gain the memory, and then you can use them later, right? Because at the end of your opponent's turn, you don't have to delete him, right? That effect is optional. It is you may. And so for Yu-Gi-Oh, I think it's pretty mandatory here. And then I'm running 2 Analog Youth. For 2 costs, you search the top 3, add 1 Digimon to hand, trash the rest. This helps fill up your trash quickly with Digimon with Myotismon in its name. It also helps you obviously search, right? The other kind of benefit of this is at times you want your MaloMyotismon with a full stack to die in order to trigger your Yu-Gi-Oh! And when you combine both of these, right? When your MaloMyotismon dies, and if it has sources, you tap both of these and you gain 2 memory, and that helps you extend play sometimes. And I think that's pretty useful. And then to round out the tamers, we are playing 1 copy of Matt. This is mostly because if you mill something that you really want in hand, you can bring it back, and having 3 memory is nice. That being said, I don't think memory tamers are that important in this deck, but the 1 Matt I think is definitely nice. I wouldn't run more, honestly, but I think it's fine just that 1. And then going into options, we are running 2 copies of Calling from the Darkness. This card is good because sometimes you just want to delete your own your entire stack, right? You want to delete it to trigger the Yu-Gi-Oh! And then bring him back the next turn in order to trash the top of your security, maybe pop a Digimon, and then have that 12k beat stick. And so this card also helps you recur 2 of your Digimon from your trash and build up another stack, so it's also pretty good. Paired with Yu-Gi-Oh! And Cool Boy, a lot of times this just ends up being free because you delete your Myotismon or MaloMyotismon, and then you tap these guys, and sometimes you even gain 1, right? So you tap these guys, you gain memory for this one. So sometimes you gain a memory over here, or sometimes it's just free. So that's pretty good, I think, and pretty important. You could also play Deathclaw, but Deathclaw doesn't always have like a valid target on your opponent's side of the field, especially in like an OTK format. So I like this because you get additional resources back that you've already used or milled. Then I'm running 2 copies of Pandemonium Flame. For 2 costs, you can delete 1 of your Digimon to delete 1 of your opponent's Digimon with unsuspended Digimon. Sorry, your opponent's unsuspended Digimon with a level less than or equal to the deleted Digimon's level. So Pandemonium Flame is pretty good, I think. It lets you delete a lot of things, especially if you have Malo and Yu-Gi-Oh! Already set up. However, I found that at 4, it was just way too much. At 3, it was also kind of bricking. It is a good card. But honestly, like I wouldn't mind cutting this, but it just feels so in theme for the deck, and it does come up. But it sometimes just it's not as good as you would think sometimes when you just have this in hand. And in security, it's also not the greatest. Delete 1 of your opponent's unsuspended Digimon. Also, sometimes it triggers in security and your opponent doesn't have anything else unsuspended on their board, and it just kind of whiffs. So that's why I'm running 2. I would consider bumping it down to 1, but then I don't see it when I need it. Otherwise, I would completely just cut this for some other form of removal. However, the 2 cost is really cheap, so that is why I run it. And then finally, I'm running 1 copy of Win Rate 60%. This is also kind of a flex spot that I'm kind of just testing out, but it does seem to work out. A lot of times, like I said, your MaloMyotismon's already going to be digivolving for 3. However, because it actually gains the memory, you can actually kind of net memory back. You can gain memory back. So you play this for 2, you trash something, hopefully filling up your trash with more Myotismons in the process, digivolving in your Malo for free, right? And then you mill 5, and then since you trashed a Myotismon already, or you had one in trash, something like that, you gain a memory back. And so for 2 costs, you're actually gaining a memory and digivolving in your MaloMyotismon. So that's pretty neat, I think. And that is all for the deck profile. So this deck is, like I said, it does require a lot of setup. You do need to get 5 Digimon with Myotismon in your trash as quickly as possible. Against certain matchups, you do want to have the Venom Myotismon out. However, do keep in mind that because this deck has no DP buffs, a lot of times you will find yourself swinging in, digivolving into this with like a Sang Loopmon or something, and then hitting something that's 12k or bigger, and this just dies. And if you're me and have terrible luck, it's gonna die on the first check. But keeping him on the board is all like pretty good as well. But again, this is really matchup dependent. If they have lower DP in their deck, then you can probably swing a bit more safely and feel a bit more confident there. But yeah, that is all I have for the deck profile. Now, again, this deck is not good. In fact, I believe in that statement so much that I am willing to put my money where my mouth is. And so I am putting a bounty out on MaloMyotismon. And I am saying that MaloMyotismon is not a good deck. If you disagree with me, feel free to prove me wrong. If you can make a deck that has at least 6 Digimon with Myotismon in its name, including at least 2 MaloMyotismon, so that is the requirement, And in the next 2 months, by the end of 2022, if you're able to get top 32 at regional or Evo Cup, which I think we have a handful of the next 2 months, if you're able to get top 32 with meeting these conditions, 6 Digimon with Myotismon in its name, 2 of them being Malo, at least, you can have more, I will donate $100 to one of these charities of your choosing. If you can't make top 32 and you can make top 64, I'll leave in the description below what that will look like. But yeah, I don't think it's happening. If you are able to do that, be sure to comment down below or send me a message on Discord. I'll leave my Discord username in the description below, and I will declare you the best MaloMyotismon player in the world. You'll get to donate to a charity of your choosing from one of the ones that mentioned above. And everyone will have a fun deck profile that isn't a meta deck that they know can actually do well in the hands of a good pilot. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. If you like this video, be sure to comment, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and prove me wrong on this, because I honestly don't think you can.